We're going to begin right now. We'll have lots of time for schmoozing soon. Hi. My name is Michael Bean. Welcome. I am chair of the Regional San Francisco Board, a member of the International Council, and very excited to have all of you here today. We have a very wonderful event that we'd like to begin. I also want to take a moment just to thank our co-chairs of the event tonight, Steve Abel, Candace Gold, Leslie Kane, Stu Pollack, and so many others, and our wonderful staff who did a great job. Thank you all. And I want to now introduce Bill Goldman.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Goldman. I am a board member of the NIF, local here in San Francisco. I'm thrilled to see everyone out tonight for such a lovely event. It is our privilege tonight to present a special conversation between New Israel Fund's Executive Director in Israel, Rachel Liel, and our honoree and NIF Board President, Dr. Naomi Chazen. Naomi Chazen is a leading human rights activist, distinguished academic, and a former deputy speaker of the Knesset. She's professor emerita of political science and African studies at Hebrew University, and she currently serves as head of the School of Government and Society at the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo. For the past 4 years, she has been our intrepid leader during some of the more challenging and exciting times that the New Israel Fund has had in many years. And I will just quickly say that I don't know that we could have done all that we have done at NIF without her fantastic and strong leadership. Rachel Liel is the New Israel Fund's executive director in Israel. Prior to her appointment, Rachel served as the director of Shatil, the New Israel Fund Initiative for Social Change, which she joined in 1998 as part of a long and distinguished career in public service. Having worked for the Labor and Social Affairs Ministry and as a policy analyst in the Department of Social Policy and Planning of the Prime Minister's Office. She is also the recipient of many awards and commendations for her work in the social justice fields, and we are thrilled to be able to present a conversation between both of our distinguished leaders in Israel.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very excited, Naomi. We are in San Francisco, the place where the New Israel Fund was established 33 years ago. I think I saw Jonathan Cohen and Eli Friedman, to whom we owe forever. And we are here, Naomi, with the best friends of NIF, really our closest donors and supporters who believe in us, who stick with us, and they all came to hear you tonight.
And you.
Okay. She's a feminist, so that's it. Okay. We are celebrating here your leadership. And on a personal note, I think you are a brilliant leader. And I also must say that I love you. So it's a good way to start the conversation this evening. So Bill have already said, you came in as a president in a very stormy time with the right wings in power. And there is so much to talk about the attacks on NIF and on you and the challenges to Israeli democracy and to the NIF. And as I'm dying to speak about it, but I know that this is what you are going to speak later at the main presentation. So I will allow myself to skip that and to go to something else, okay? But I promise you will hear all about it later on, okay? So Naomi, for 11 years, you were a member of the Knesset, as Bill said, and 7 of them as the deputy speaker of the House. You also, for so many years, are active in civil society in Israel, for women's issues, for peace issues, and of course, as a board member of the New Israel Fund, and as the president of the New Israel Fund. So I want to ask you, tell me, where do you think one has more of an influence? In politics or in civil society?
And now you understand why I love Rachel Liel. and I really do love her. It's been a pleasure working so closely with you, not only for the past 4 years, but 2 years when you were director of Shatil and I was head of the Shatil committee. Can I say good evening to all of you? You're terrific. It's marvelous to be in San Francisco. I am doing exactly what you think I'm doing. I'm thinking about the question as I'm speaking.
It's a tough one.
And when I was in the Knesset, I want you to know, I was absolutely convinced that that was the place to be. Power is very intoxicating, except every time I rose in the Knesset ranks, I realized that the real power was somewhere else. And I normally, as a political scientist, tend to say, always be where the decisions are made. But after 4 years leading the most incredible umbrella organization of civil society in Israel, Rachel, I want to tell you, I think things are changing, not only in Israel, but also definitely in Europe and the United States. And there is more people's power today to make a difference and to force decision makers to make change than at any time during my lifetime. So if I had to choose a place to be today, I would be in civil society because I think that's where change is coming from and that's where decency exists today. So I am very happy about where I've been in the past 4 years and will continue to be.
I must admit you surprised me. I thought you will go here also, a bit here, a bit there. It was very clear, so appreciate it. So I want to, honestly, I thought you're such a devoted politician, she will say, well, the political arena and then the civil, but you put it just in front of our faces, we say in Hebrew. So now, you know that the New Israel Fund deals with violations of rights, with discrimination, with racism, really difficult issues that to deal with them is often emotionally exhausting, sometimes frustrating, and needs a lot of mental strength. Now, tell me the truth, we are among friends. Is there fun at NIF?
Well, I don't think people have had enough to drink yet to deal with this question. Can I switch the word fun to satisfaction?
Let's ask our guests. Should we? Should she switch?
Look, I'll do both. How's that? On the fun level, you see around the wall standing a bunch of youngish people who are the heart and soul of the New Israel Fund on the ground. And in between their intensity and their dedication is mercifully a great deal of humor. And I want you to know that when you're in the business of rectifying ills, if you don't have a sense of humor, you are not going to survive for one moment, and that is fun. But can I use this opportunity to talk about satisfaction as well?
Go ahead.
I want to tell you a story that I really thought about telling later this evening and realized it would take me all the time that I have allotted. But I also, in another hat, I'm a dean of a college, and in Yaffo. That's what you do when you retire from the university and you need to make money, at least to make a living. And we've made a concerted effort to diversify the student population. And we have a few Arabs, mercifully, in the student body, and actually took on 2 African refugees who are graduates of a secondary school in Israel. They arrived in Israel 7 years ago, Jean-Luc and Gassim from Guinea, and they were the victims of human trafficking. They were sold, basically, and arrived in Israel, rescued by Israelis, sent to secondary school. We put them in. And about 2 months ago, there were rumblings. The atmosphere in Israel is not always good. Why do we have Arabs and left-wingers in our class? And the Facebook page started with incitement. And I was furious. So I collected all the students together, and I said, I've seen some of what you're saying about Arabs and foreigners on the Facebook page. And I want you to know that in my college, we have 0 tolerance for this kind of thing. If one word of racism, and you are out forever. Okay, that's easy. That's easy. And you can imagine how upsetting this event was. Last week, exactly a week ago, I get a hysterical phone call from who I suspected was the worst offender of the students. Naomi, they arrested Jean-Luc, the refugee. Do something. I said, I'm on it. Got our hotline for foreign workers, for migrant workers on the case. Immediately, they anyway know the 2 gentlemen in question. I called the president of the college and said, we've got a problem. He said, I'm behind you. I love this support. I'm behind you. Do whatever you have. And I got into my office, and the secretary said, the students are here. They want to talk to you about what they can do. The delegation. The delegation was 70 strong. They were packed like sardines into my office. And I said, look, we've got a hearing for Jean-Luc in 2 hours. Organize a petition. We'll present it at the hearing. If we can get him released from jail, we may be able to complete his university education. These students, the one who had been inciting, and my Arab student, Muhammad, who had been the object of the incitement, are all of a sudden the best buddies in the world. Together, they got 750 signatures on a petition to release a refugee in less than 2 hours. And Jean-Luc was released the next day. And Muhammad wrote a note on the Facebook, and it said, that's what we're all about. When we work together, can you imagine what power we have? And it may not be fun, but I want you to know, if you ever lose faith for a moment, remember the story of the students who worked together to get their African colleague out of jail, and hopefully he will finish his BA in Israel. That's what makes me feel good.
One more question. Naomi, there is so much I can ask you about your 98 years old mother, that you are still taking care of her, about your grandson. But I'm told there is no time. So
What? Really?
well, we have, and we need to open to questions. So I would like to ask you one last question. You know, you've been the president for 4 years, and now we are welcoming Brian as the new president. Would you like to share with us the here and now about your feelings at this moment? בקיצור.
I have a marvelous family. And I definitely am of the sandwich generation. I'm taking care of a very old, magnificent mother and 2 children and a grandson who is the love of my life, of course. and I really thought until 4 years ago that I was unusually blessed with family and friends. And then I entered the New Israel Fund family. And I want you to know, I have acquired over the last 4 years a family that everybody would be proud to have and blessed to have. So Brian, I know it's your hometown, but I want you to know you will never, ever experience a family like these marvelous people in this room. It is a privilege and a pleasure and a delight, and thank you so much for being part of a wondrous, wondrous family, really.
And now we should open the floor for questions. Cindy?
Naomi, you wanted to talk about your 98-year-old mother. Please tell us about her.
You know her, Sandy, don't you? Okay. I didn't know this conversation was going to go this way, but the question from Sandy was, he wants to know more about my 98-year-old mother. And I will indulge you in 3 minutes. You can time me. My mother was born in London, as was my father. And in the mid-1930s, they were, each of them, together with Abba Eben. Abba Eben was head of the Jewish Student Union at Cambridge. My father was head of the Jewish Student Union at Oxford. They were really diehard Zionists, the 2 men. And my mother was head of the Jewish Student Union at London School of Economics, and she was not a Zionist. And they met and they debated and they argued and they fell in love. And next thing she knew, 3 years later, she was in Palestine with my father and started an illustrious career. My mother is one of the real founders of the State of Israel. She established the social services in the country. She was the first female ambassador of Israel. She was in the UN in the early 50s. She was the first elected Israeli to head a, I hope you're recording this because I want her to hear it too, to head a UN body. She was chair of the board of UNICEF. She received the Peace Prize on behalf of UNICEF in 1965, before all these men like Begin and Peres and Rabin. She was a member of Knesset and hated it. And she was the UN representative of the High Commissioner for Refugee. And the most important thing is both my parents taught me from an early age that Jews have the right to collective self-determination, to create a state of Israel, which is a state and a homeland for the Jews. But with that comes the obligation to create an equal and just society for all the citizens of the state. And if you ever wanted an education, I grew up with living, tangible proof that the founders of the state really believed in equality and justice and liberty. So she's amazing. That's my mother.
You know there is a saying in Hebrew, התפוח לא נופל רחוק מהעץ.
We have that in English too.
Yes, so...
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
I just forgot one thing that's quite important. My mother's name is Zina Harman, and my father's name was Avram Harman. He, for 9 years, was ambassador of Israel to the United States and president of the university, Hebrew University.
Are there any other questions?
The one about my mother threw everybody off, myself included.
I'm Paul Blanc from San Francisco. Apropos of what you're saying and the Zionist ideal, I know that Herzl said as soon as we created a Jewish state, we should turn to Africa.
Of course he did.
And what do you have to say? And that Golda Meir reinforced this with the foreign ministry when she became prime minister. What is your vision?
Actually, she did it when she was foreign minister.
Foreign minister. What is your vision of Israel and Africa, especially in light of our current struggles?
בקיצור. Yeah.
Well, I teach a course on the topic for a whole year, and you're invited to, and I've written extensively. Look, I always thought that Israeli-African relations were important for political reasons and strategic and economic, but mostly because of Tikkun Olam, that Israel has an obligation. And Herzl was right on with that statement, which I quote all the time. I am extremely upset, but I think every Jew should be extremely upset about the official attitude towards African refugees today. There is not one person in this room that doesn't have somebody, either a parent or a grandparent, or for the younger ones, maybe a great-grandparent, that wasn't a refugee. And one of the reasons we established the state is to assure any Jew that he or she will never be a refugee again. And that obligation extends absolutely to those who are knocking on our doors because they have run away from discrimination and harassment and incitement and rape and murder and are seeking refuge. And I think it's a Jewish obligation. And relations between Israel and African countries, relations between Israel and the United States, relations between Israel and Europe, they are no longer based on memory. They will be strong and they will be cemented because they are based on common values. And therefore, to To answer your question elliptically, but nevertheless, a Jewish state has an obligation to take care of the stranger, the refugee in our land, in order to honor our history and to promote our values. I think you'll agree with that.